The two most powerful words that can be uttered in prayer are change me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Sinless. I'm here with my pal Justin in the Trout Lake Camps podcast studio. And Justin and I just accidentally had an amazing 10-minute conversation that we should have done on camera, which is the point of the third episode of the week, is what we're going to try to do is bring in people and interview them about the experience of going through this Sinless program, the Sinless experience, whatever we want to call it. We'll get a better name eventually of what that experience is. But we were just breaking down from your perspective, man, what is this sin? How do I know this is a sin? What is the result of that? How do we figure that out? Is there theological points here? Justin and I go way back. We watch other podcasts and we share them with each other and talk late into the evenings on occasion on what that podcast was about. And that's what these third episodes of the week are going to be. And actually, I was just saying probably 10, 15 weeks down the road, we won't do the why and the how. And most of the episodes will be these interviews and discussions and responses to how doing this experience is affecting our life, how sinning less over the course of a day is affecting our day-to-day walk. But I need to go back to the beginning because today I want to interview somebody who's not interviewable. His name is J.I. Packer. He died in 2020 at 94 years old. He was born in 1926. J.I. Packer is one of my favorite theologians. He's one of the best known theologians of the last 100 years. A brilliant man, a brilliant person, and he may have touched your life and you don't even know it. This is the book that started me down with this idea of mortification years and years and years ago with our summer staff, our college-age staff at camp. We were looking for a book that we could break down through the summer, and we found 18 words, and it's Packer's 18 favorite words that we should know as Christians. I love this book so much it's hard to express. But Packer is an English guy. He is a theologian guy. It's a very easy reading, hard to read book at times. My favorite words in here, like I said in an earlier episode, grace, salvation. But my favorite word in here is mortification, in which Packer talks about, hey, this is how you kill sin. This is why this is important to get sin out of our life. He has other famous books that he's written. Knowing God is probably the most famous one. His book on prayer it just kicks my butt every time I open it up. The ESV Study Bible, which is my favorite Bible in the land. The ESV Study Bible, actually, he was the leader of the team that wrote every footnote. He confirmed every footnote in this Bible, is my understanding. Every map, everything to make this just an amazing study Bible. So, like I said, Packer might have touched your life in some way along the way. But I want to go back to kind of his early days. Packer is 18 years old. And he is just applied at Oxford. He's at school on his first day of college, a freshman year, Oxford University. And he, as people in England may do, after going through that rough and tumble first day, he goes to a local pub. And he pulls up a chair at the local pub. I don't know the sinless rules on drinking yet. I know my rules are blah, but we'll work on that later. But for Packer at that moment in time, Justin, I'm hoping that was okay with you. In that moment of time, he pulls up a chair at this pub and a guy sits next to him. And he says he has the most important or one of the most important conversations of his entire time in college with this guy that he sits next to the bar stool with. And the topic they discuss into the night on his first day of going to university was mortification, was the killing of sin. Which boggles my mind. I cannot imagine pulling up to anywhere in the United States of America and having somebody pull up alongside of me, watching kids play soccer, going to McDonald's, I don't know, and having somebody pull up next to me and say, "Hey, let's talk about killing sin." Has that ever happened to you, Justin? Have you ever had anybody do that next to you?
It's happening right now at this very moment, but prior to that,
nothing.
Yeah, not really.
Nothing. And it kind of even blows your mind that that would just be the focus. That would be this, hey, how does one kill sin? How do we work on that? What does that mean in college for Packer? So later on, he writes this, and I think it's a great kind of a phrase, although it gets a little old school. He says, the Christian is committed to a lifelong fight. Okay? The Christian's committed to a lifelong fight. Any Christian, any follower of Jesus, you are committed to this lifelong fight. One, against the world. Okay? And again, we're not going to break that one down too bad, but just whatever is going on in the world, the Christian's trying to do the opposite of that, right? A Christian's trying to not be worldly, but trying to be otherworldly. Okay? I don't want to go too far into that one. Two, the flesh. Okay? That's that mortification piece, that fight against death and for life and peace. The flesh is that biblical understanding of that flesh is where that fight happens. And three, he says the devil. Now, again, I'm going to stop here for a second. One of the cool things about being me is that I run a kids' Bible camp with a bunch of college staff. And so there's some things that I don't have to drill down into because I'm not a pastor. I'm not a theologian, and I'm going to take devil and I'm going to take that one and move it aside. Now, again, I was alive in the late 80s when we all got excited about all sorts of spiritual welfare stuff. Has that ever been your thing, Justin?
Spiritual warfare stuff?
Yeah.
It's once in a while, but then the conversation gets crazy and I bow out.
Yep. It's too much for what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to take two of J.I. Packer's 3 points and kind of toss them aside and just say, look, let's think about this deal with the flesh. And again, I'm going to go back to, by the way, one of Packer's favorite book. He said he was more influenced by this book than any other book that he ever read, with John Owen's Mortification of Sin. In John Owen's version of Romans 8:13, if by the Spirit ye mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. So this book was a huge thing to Packer in going, I am going to try to figure out a way to kill sin in my day-to-day walk. And we're going to break more into Packer as we go here, and we're going to go into more of his pieces. But I want to stop here for a second and go to the end of what Packer says. In multiple books, he stops and says this. He says, the two most powerful words that can be uttered in prayer are, change me. I'm actually very cautious in my life when I go to God and I go, I'm going to make a promise that I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm actually very cautious in my life when I go to God and say, hey, God, you can have everything you want in my life. Just do what you want. That is scary. Okay. Also, when it comes to like sinless, and Justin and I were just talking about it, even when I get to a New Year's resolution and I go, man, I'm going to try to take this on. I told this story about when I quit swearing when I was a kid. And I said, I'm going to quit swearing. I sinned all the time when I was a kid. I sinned all the time yesterday, but I'm going to quit swearing. In the effects of that, what Packer's saying is look, if we want to take these things on, we actually have to go to God and say, hey, look, you have permission to come alongside me and change who I am, how I'm doing these things, why I'm doing these things. You have permission to open my eyes to the things that I'm not looking at. And that's what the conversation that Packer had with that gentleman in that pub is how do we work with the Holy Spirit? And again, we'll talk about that passage in James in a future episode. How do we work with the Holy Spirit? How do we take on this almost unimaginable thing? When I go to do a resolution or I go to do a life change, I can usually take on, I'm going to lose weight. I'm actually taking that one on right now because gluttony is on my sin list, and I got to be really careful of gluttony. And so I'm losing weight because I'm stopping at that first ice cream, 1 scoop, 2 scoop, and walk away, not doing the third and the fourth scoop, right? So part of that, God, will you help me change, is helping me look at, hey, how do I go about this? How do I prayerfully go about this? What does my morning look like when I'm trying to go, not just that sin of gluttony, but I'm picking somewhere between 1 and 12 sins, somewhere between 1 and 12 pretty big issues that could trip me up and send my life sideways. When I prayerfully go to God and say, help me with this, it's a really interesting connection. And again, I'll go back to the story of the kid in the high school group that's saying, look, I come to youth group every week and nothing's changed. What Packer is trying to say over and over and over again, and we'll dig deeper, but if you change your standards, if you decide, I'm not going to try to do Christianity, but I'm going to do Christianity, and even maybe I'm going to go above and beyond doing Christianity, and I'm going to take this thing on and I'm going to try to reflect Jesus as best as I possibly can today. That's going to take a ton of effort. It's going to take a ton of focus. It's going to take a ton of understanding. And Packer knew that. And so when Packer says, when we go about this idea of mortification, about killing sin in our lives, the first thing we got to do is stop and go, God, you have permission to make me different tomorrow than I was today. Let's go back to that doing. We talk about this at camp with our college age and our high school age staff. Doing is a feeble attempt to try to create approval in somebody that's around you. Trying is just like, oh, I tried. I tried to take this on. There'll be a bunch of people that'll complain about what we're trying to do here if you join me, that we're doing it wrong. And they're kind of the triers. They're the ones that are like, I'm not going to follow this through. It's easier to shake my fist at what's going on than to try the hard thing. This is a hard thing. The doers are people that sit and the definition is you change your habit, you adjust your habit in order to get the results you want. That's somebody that's doing something. That was really bad. That's somebody that's doing something. They're changing their habits. They're adjusting their life to get the result they want. And the result is that they completed this task. That's what we talk about with our summer staff. It's like if your boss gives you a list of 5 things to do today and you only do 3 of them, you weren't successful. You should have done 5 because that's the list your boss gave you. There's a difference between trying and doing all 5. Now, in all honesty, the sinless thing, I really want to try, and I haven't done it yet. I'm nowhere near close. I'd love to get a day where I didn't sin. I didn't do one of these 12 things. I'd love for you to get a day where you didn't sin, that you didn't do these 12 things. Are we ever going to be sinless? Probably not, okay? Not till the end, not till it's all said and done and Jesus does his thing, right? But what Packer says is the thought, the devotion, the intention of sinning less is the payoff in our faith. It's what makes our life not death, but life. What makes our life not bad, but peace. And so when we do and follow through and do the best of our ability, hey, I am going to sin less. That is what we're called upon to do as followers of Jesus. And we'll talk about the disciples and how they followed their rabbi and what that looked like. Again, so many things coming up in future episodes. But trying is a feeble attempt to try to get somebody to be happy that you tried. Doing is adjusting your life to make that work, to make it happen. And then going above and beyond is going that next crazy step that's beyond what you were asked to do, beyond all those pieces in which your boss goes, oh, I cannot believe not only did they do the 5, but they did 6 and 7 too. That is amazing. This is the greatest staff member I've ever had, just like Justin was back in the day when he was on staff. That's kind of the mindset there. So as we look at what Packer was telling us, okay, the Christian is committed to a lifelong fight, 1 against the world, okay, 3 against the devil, but 2, this lifelong fight against the flesh. Packer tells us that it's worth it. Jesus tells us that it's worth it. The disciples tell us that it's worth it. I would tell that kid in Luke's youth group that if you actually take on your faith in Jesus in a way in which you're trying to reflect him daily, what would Jesus do? That was a silly question. It's how can I live like Jesus lived? And I think you live how Jesus lived and lives by choosing to kill sin. And that's what Packer would have told us. That's what Packer would have encouraged us to do. And that's what I want to encourage us to do as we get out of the first week, and then we'll see you on week 2.